Welcome to Hacks Recaps. Today I will display you a crime mystery movie from 2005 titled Revolver. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. After 7 years of confinement, Cockney gambler Jake Green is ultimately free of jail. 2 years after his release, he and his brother Billy cross to one of the maximum critical casinos inside the area with the purpose of having lower back the cash they are owed through the proprietor, crime boss Dorothy Macha. Ignoring his bodyguard Paul's advice, he permits Jake to sign up for his non-public sport. On the manner up, Jake hesitates to take the elevator due to his claustrophobia. However, the different bodyguards remind him they ought to climb 20 floors, so he offers and takes the elevator at the same time as combating a panic attack. Jake's first wager is on a chip toss towards every other participant on the desk, which he loses, but that is on purpose. He is manipulating Macha right into an experience of fake security. So while he makes the identical wager with him, he wins this time. Billy and Jake hurry to go away the online casino with their baggage, complete of cash, and on their manner out, they may be stopped through Zach, who tells them they may be in threat and he can assist them earlier than giving Jake his card. This time, Jake comes to a decision to take the stairs, however earlier than he may even cross down one step. He passes out and falls down as the cardboard is discovered to say, "Take the elevator." While Jake is rushed to the medical institution, Macha expresses his concerns to Paul. Jake ought to need larger revenge after 7 years in prison, specifically after the incident together along with his sister-in-law. So Macha orders Paul to rent the excellent hitman with inside the commercial enterprise to dispose of him. At the medical institution, Jake is instructed no reason for the blackout might be observed at a primary glance, so he need to cross domestic and relaxation at the same time as awaiting the blood. Take a look at consequences. Billy is going to his very own house at the same time as Jake takes the bodyguards for safety. However, they all are shot as quickly as they arrive. The handiest motive why he manages to stay clear of is that he unearths a card at the ground that says "Pick this up," so he bends over to do precisely so. He attempts to break out in his car. However, the driving force is shot too, fortuitously for him. Zach arrives simply in time to shop him and take him away. The hitman, Sorter, cannot recognize how he neglected, because he by no means misses, and theorizes a person ought to have tipped Jake off. What he tells Macha while he scolds him, however, is that he neglected due to the fact he had a bad feeling. Meanwhile, Zach takes Jake to satisfy his partner, Avi, who has by some means positioned his palms on Jake's clinical file. The take a look at consequences are in. Jake has an extraordinary blood ailment with a view to reason his demise inside 3 days. The guys provide Jake their safety in trade for 2 conditions, which aren't negotiable. He ought to provide them all their cash and do something they ask for, which include answering any questions. They provide him 3 hours to decide. However, Jask leaves without announcing a phrase due to the fact he is satisfied they may be looking to trick him. The consequences he receives on the medical institution are the identical ones. However, Jaskier as soon as again thinks the lab ought to have been paid through Zach and Avi, so he receives a second opinion from his non-public doctor, who additionally offers him the identical prognosis after threatening him together along with his gun to make sure he is not additionally being paid. Jake admits he has no desire and, after taking cash from the bank, is going lower back to just accept the guys' deal. As they cross out for a ride, Avi explains they may be mortgage sharks and it will be Jake's cash that they may be loaning. After traveling their first purchaser to drop the cash, Avi needs Jake to inform him all approximately his records with Macha. Macha used to have 3 very silly guys operating for him referred to as the 3. That is, they misplaced their card guy earlier than a huge sport and knew Jake turned into an excellent participant. In order that they referred to as him to update him, Jake desired to refuse. However, they threatened Billy's family, so he needed to be given to defend them. During the sport, however, the alternative guys at the desk began insulting Jake and his mother. Jake wouldn't be given that, so he commenced a gunfight. The electricity went off, the cash disappeared, and the subsequent issue he knew. A person dropped his call, and Jake turned into being puzzled through the police. To preserve him from talking, they threatened his niece, and by chance killed his sister-in-law. While she attempted to defend her daughter, Jake did not inform the law enforcement officials that Macha organized the video games and turned into dispatched to prison for 7 years. At some stage in that time, The Eddies disenchanted Macha in some manner which ended in him the use of them as concrete. After traveling a group of clients, Zack sends Jake to live at a lodge. Meanwhile, Macha and Paul go to crime kingpin Sam Gold. Considered the last figure all different crime bosses need to be like. However, Gold by no means receives visitors, so rather they meet together along with his advisor, Lily Walker, who accepts to deal her a powder deal with Macha. She additionally reminds him that Gold does not like exposure or provide second chances. Sometime later, Jake offers Zack and Avi extra money earlier than he has requested, approximately his time in prison at the same time as gambling chess with Avi. Jake have been given options, 14 years of regular time or 7 years of solitary. So he selected solitary. His cell turned into Among Guises, a chess grasp and a conman that have been there for a protracted time, and at the same time as they by no means talked to every different, they knew the whole lot approximately every different. During the first 5 years of Jake's sentence, the three of them might speak through sending messages written on the library books, and that turned into how Jake learned their components to win any sport with inside the world. The guys have been making plans a jailbreak and promised to take Jake with them. However, once they ultimately left, they disappeared without a phrase and left Jake in the back of. When he turned into launched years later, he observed out the ones guys had taken all his cash and handiest left in the back of a observe that stated you may handiest get smarter through gambling a better opponent. So Jaker commenced the use of the components to make himself wealthy at numerous casinos. As the times pass, Jake keeps operating through traveling numerous clients and giving freely his very own cash. He's additionally supposed to threaten them in the event that they do not pay. However, he cannot carry himself to harm innocent, determined people. Meanwhile, Avi and Zack are chaining the aspect of a wall to a truck, so once they pull, they break stated wall and thieve the secure on the alternative aspect. This secure has the powder Macha had promised Lily, so while he unearths out he has been robbed, he sends Paul to resolve this irrespective of what it takes. Paul is going to peer their rival, Triad Kingpin Lord John, who accepts to offer them with the powder on such brief be aware however handiest for an overinflated price. Jake, Zack, Avi, and their crew visit the motel wherein the trade will happen. They sneak right into a room subsequent to the thugs to make a hollow in the wall and inject napping gas, placing both Macha's and John's guys to sleep. Then they thieve the cash and the powder, framing it to make it appearance it turned into Macha that robbed John and vice versa. Sometime later, Jake receives a name from Billy, who tells him he has been asking round and has observed out that Zack and Avi are so dangerous that now no longer even Gold might contact them, so Jake need to get out of there. Jake does not pay attention and is going lower back to work, wherein he is being predicted to shoot a scared purchaser. He refuses and attempts to shoot Avi rather. However, he realizes the gun is empty proper earlier than Avi knocks him out. Jake wakes up hours later with inside the lodge and receives a name from Avi announcing he has survived his third day, so he need to get a checkup. After being visited through his niece and Billy, who leaves him a gun simply in case, Jake is going to peer his doctor, who confirms the prognosis have been incorrect. Jake is fine. He attempts to name Avi and demand answers. However, Avi handiest says he will must wait. Meanwhile, Paul has been accumulating information, and Jake's call has arisen as concerned in all the issues his guys were going through, so Macha orders him to kill him. When Jake returns to the lodge, Avi and Zack are awaiting him and warn him that Macha's thugs are ready inside the room. Jake runs away and the guys cross after him. However, he manages to lose them, specifically while one of the thugs slips and shoots himself through accident. The different criminals discover the frame and suppose Jake did it. Jake is going to peer Avi and Zack at their office, wherein they confess they have got constantly known. Jake did not inform them the entire fact. Approximately his vintage cope with the Eddies. Those three clowns had been awaiting Jake while he were given out of jail to kill him, because what he did induced them to get fired through Macha to shop his life. He supplied the Eddies a deal. Each month, he might provide them 3% of any cash they might lend them. The first time, handiest one Eddie agreed to it, but once they saw he stored his deal, all of them desired to be in, this time for a 4%. In fact, Jake turned into paying every Eddie with every other Eddie's cash. So he wasn't dropping something. It got here to some extent wherein they did not have any extra money to lend, in order that they borrowed from Macha. who quick have become interested with inside the Eddie's mysterious cash maker guy. After playing with the components and making himself wealthy, Jake selected that second to take a vacation together along with his brother and niece. And that turned into while Macha killed the Eddies for now no longer paying him lower back. Speaking of Macha, he is having dinner at a fancy eating place while he is visited through his henchmen that inform him Jake escaped. Sorta recognizes John's lover pretending to be a waitress. So, he shoots her earlier than leaving the eating place to cross after her driving force. However, his capturing is nonetheless off and he handiest were given to harm her. Now no longer kill her. So, earlier than dying, the girl manages to shoot Macha's finger off with inside the center of the commotion. Then, Sorter is dispatched to Lord John's hideout to kill him, and his guys. Back to Jake, he is nonetheless chatting to Zach and Abby at the same time as they play golfing on a roof. They give an explanation for to him that no person ever receives to pure gold due to the fact he does not definitely exist. He is simply an illustration of ego and the personification of greed. He handiest has electricity over folks who invest in him. So what Jake desires to do is extra the regulations of what he permits to govern him. Afterward, Jake takes the relaxation of his cash from the bank and donates all of it earlier than sneaking into Macha's bedroom while combating with the voices in his head that constitute his ego. Jake apologizes to Macha for tricking him out of his cash, accepts him because the advanced crime lord, and tells him he is made a donation in his call earlier than leaving in order to confront his fears. Jake takes the elevator, which receives caught at the 13th ground while combating off a panic attack. He has a verbal exchange in his thoughts wherein he rejects his ego, ultimately stepping out of the sport as a free guy once the elevator beings operating again. Jake reaches the floor ground and unearths Macha ready for him with a gun, pushed loopy through his very own ego. However, Jake is at peace with himself and simply walks beyond him, which drives Macha mad due to the fact he cannot recognize how a person might not worry him. He starts off crying as he is aware how thoroughly humiliated he has been. The subsequent morning, Paul brings Macha all of the nearby newspapers for him to peer his call plastered throughout them. Jake hadn't been mendacity while he stated he made a donation in Macha's call. And now all of us thinks the online casino proprietor cares approximately the community. Macha is glad to take the credit. However, his happiness is brief-lived. Paul additionally informs him that Jake has the powder and he has been gambling all of them along. Paul, Sorter, and the relaxation of Macha's henchmen go to Billy, who manages to cover his daughter with inside the cabinet while he realizes one in every of his bodyguards has betrayed him. Once he is observed, the guys start hurting him at the same time as interrogating him, now no longer believing while he says he does not realize wherein Jake and the powder are. Paul's torturing methods are quick escalating and Sorter begins off feeling uncomfortable, specifically once they make the female pop out of the cabinet when they pay attention her sob, refusing to harm a child. Sorter rejects his ego and starts off killing his fellow henchmen, methodically and effectively. However, he makes a mistake on the give up and receives killed too. Meanwhile, Macha is visited through Lily. She brings him a wreath, dispatched through Gold, who is not satisfied with seeing Macha's call everywhere in the newspapers because he does not like exposure. Lily additionally informs him that Macha's time is over and he might not have a second chance, which sends him into every other panicking frenzy. Avi and Zach take Jake and the powder to Macha's online casino, wherein Avi ultimately beats Jake at a sport of chess, at the same time as confessing the previous few info of the story. He and Zach have been the guys with inside cells subsequent to Jake's, and that they constantly desired to take him away with them. However, he hadn't been geared up to just accept the fact, implying they were not anything however simply figments of Jake's imagination. Unfortunately, he does not have time to come to phrases with this due to the fact at that second, the online casino's bodyguards come to take him to Pier Macha, who has the female with him. After losing the baggage of powder at the ground, Jake tells his niece the whole lot could be fine, which drives Macha mad due to the fact Jake is nonetheless displaying no worry even if he is pointing his gun on the child. Humiliation reasons the ego voices in Macha's thoughts to attain, and that Jake cannot harm a lifeless guy. So, he places the gun towards his head and shoots.